Our purpose here is to reduce entropy. Somebody builds something up, somebody else tears it down. We're here so that we can make choices. So we struggle to manipulate that. Well, that's the wrong thing to be putting your focus on. Okay, well, when you realize that, you realize now there's a purpose to this. The larger consciousness system has to reduce its entropy in order to survive. So if you don't work at reducing entropy, entropy just increases. To reduce entropy, you have to keep making an effort to reduce entropy. So the system has to continue to evolve and reduce entropy. So it breaks apart to have all these pieces to give it novelty. So now we have purpose. Well, what's our purpose? Our purpose here is to reduce entropy. Well, what does that mean? In a social system where you have interacting entities and their job is to reduce entropy, it turns out that they do that most effectively in their social interaction with cooperation, with caring, you see? And I call that, I had that under love. Okay? Caring and cooperation, I guess, are two of the main ideas. On the opposite end is, or the way that they could interact would be fear. Fear is the opposite of love. And if you had a social system and all of the pieces were interacting with fear, that would raise entropy. With fear, there's no trust. With fear, it's all about me. It's me against everybody else. What can I get? And then how can I keep it? And then I have trouble keeping it in this kind of law of the jungle world. So me and others will get together to form a little mutual defense pact so that we can keep our stuff and we won't steal each other's. And other mutual defense pacts do, and then there's war between those. And you see that I'm kind of describing where we live, right? That's the fear-based reality. Well, that doesn't build, that doesn't grow very well, because if somebody builds something up, somebody else tears it down or gets rid of them and takes it over. Then somebody else tears it down. You see, there's all this me, gimme going on, and that doesn't produce lower entropy. That produces higher entropy. Cooperation. How can we help? How can we work together to produce something that optimizes a social system's interactions? Okay. So our purpose then becomes to become love, to become cooperative, to become caring, make it about other more than about self. And that becomes our purpose of us as individuated units of consciousness. So that ends up not only explaining our virtual reality that had to be here to be a schoolhouse for individuated units of consciousness. Why do we need a schoolhouse? Well, if it wasn't for this virtual reality, what would we be? We'd be a bunch of individuated units of consciousness just chatting with each other. Think of a chat room with, 7.5 billion people in the chat room, no rules, just a chat room. And we're supposed to take those choices that we make in this chat room and grow up from them. Well, there's no traction. How can you grow up when you have no idea whether anybody's telling you the truth, whether the effect of the information you send, they don't know the effect of the information you receive. There's just no traction, no feedback in the system. Well, the way you get feedback is by making rules. Make the system such that there's constraints in the system and how people have to deal with the constraints, and make it a multiplayer game so that they interact with each other and have to deal with the constraints of each other and with the stuff. So the more rules, the tighter rules you make, then the more physical it looks like. So we're in a rule set that's pretty tight. It's called our physics. That's the rule set. And we can only interact here according to our rule set. I can't jump 100 feet in the air because the rule set doesn't support it. See, it's that sort of thing. So we have to abide by our physics. So our bodies, our physical systems, are avatars, just information on a hard drive. Our consciousness is non-physical to us, but it's a more fundamental reality than this reality. See, we're not in the fundamental reality, we're in a computed reality. Our consciousness is the fundamental reality. We're here so that we can make choices. because by the choices we make, we either increase entropy or decrease entropy. If we're going to evolve our consciousness, and I call that evolve the quality of our consciousness, we need to decrease entropy. That's what the system does. That's how the system stays alive. That's how it lowers its entropy. So we've got a job to do, and it's to become love. Now, how does one go about that? So I'm kind of quickly going through the parts of the theory, but how does one do that? Well, one finds out that if you're in a reality game like this one, and you're in this schoolhouse, we could call it a entropy reduction trainer, sort of like a flight trainer that the pilots get into. This is an entropy reduction trainer. And if you are increasing entropy, you're going the wrong direction. You're creating a problem rather than part of the solution. And when you do that, things just don't work out very well. If you're in the world of Warcraft and you just don't play the game right, you do things that are all counterproductive, you just don't get anywhere. You see, the game is made for a reason. So we have fear. Fear creates two other things. It creates ego, I want, I need, and it creates beliefs. If you have fear that there's something important you need to know, but you don't know it, well, then you can just believe it, because the fear of the unknown is worse than, just making a belief and live with it. So we create a lot of beliefs with our fears. So the ego, the fear, the beliefs are what we need to overcome. And as we overcome, we evolve the quality of our consciousness. So individuals who have a higher quality consciousness, they tend to live in a state of happiness. They enjoy life, love, caring. They're very positive people that mostly positive things happen to. People who are bound up with their fear and their ego and their beliefs tend to be unhappy people who are kind of miserable because they're trying to swim against the current, if you will. They're doing the wrong thing in this entropy reduction trainer. Yeah, there's games like there's rules, and that's just the way it works. So when you are, your ego causes you misery. If it's all about you, you'll probably never be a very happy person. If what you do in life is manipulate other people to be the way you need them, to manipulate events and things and people and processes to be the way you know is best, to be the way you want them to be, you are driven by your fear and ego, you're not going to be a very happy person. You're going to always be frustrated because as you try to manipulate things, you can't succeed. You see, it never succeeds. You try and try and try, but it never happens. Things and people and processes are always doing stuff other than what you want, and you just can't ever get to hear from there, so you're frustrated, you're not satisfied, you're unhappy, you're angry, and so on, and that's not a very nice life. Yeah, so it's basically the idea that we are here to lower entropy is a part of the theory that explains consciousness. It also explains physics. So I say we derive physics from this theory, and we have a purpose, and that purpose is to grow up, and morality is part of that purpose. We're back to the good versus evil, right? Which is a theme of everything. Well, it's a theme of everything. Our literature, our plays, everything we do is this good versus evil is the theme. Well, that's the theme, you see. The good is to lower your entropy. The evil is to raise your entropy. So the whole thing is this struggle of good and evil. We come here with the idea that we're going to lower it. And if we make good choices, every time we make a choice, that choice will either lower entropy a little or raise it a little. If the choice is one out of anger, it's going to raise it a little. If it's one out of caring, it's going to lower it a little. It's going to make everything work better if it's out of caring. So this is the nature. Yes, that's why. Because we are evolving our quality. As we do good, we feel better. Our life gets better. And if you can build a good quality consciousness, you live in a happy place. There's joy in things. It's a matter of everything that happens to you. And here's a real short way of looking at life. I'll kind of back up a bit. Here's a short way of looking at life. Stuff happens, and we get to deal with it. That's life. That's everybody's life. Stuff happens, and we get to deal with it. We put all of our focus on manipulating the stuff that happens. We want to make sure that everything that happens is the way we want it to happen. So we struggle to manipulate that. Well, that's the wrong thing to be putting your focus on. What you should focus on is, how do you deal with it? You deal with it with caring, love, with compassion, then you're going to grow. Your life will get better, and you will be a happier, more satisfied individual. If you're constantly trying to manipulate to make it the way you want it, well, that's ego. And why are you doing that? Because you fear it being some way other than the way you want it. You see, so that's the fear and the ego, or you believe that it needs to be that way. It's a belief. It must be that way for some reason. So that's the nature of our reality. That's why we're here. That's our purpose. That's what makes us happy or miserable. We make all of our own misery. And one of the points in this reality, and I won't try to derive it, there's not time for that, but there's feedback. A good schoolhouse has to give the students feedback. And one of the instruments of feedback is that we get to modify future probability. The future's not a done deal. We have free will, but there is a probability of things that can happen in the future, and we get to modify that probability with our intent. So intent modifies future probability. The system calculates future probability based on past actions and, what's possible. So it looks at all the things that are possible and what the probability of them happening is. Now, every time we increment this simulation one time unit, 1 delta t, some things we'll have to recalculate because free will choices are made, and what's probable and what's possible might change from time to time. So that's an ongoing, changing, volatile field out there, but it's there anyway. That gives the system some ability to anticipate what's happening next, so it can get ready, and it gives us feedback. There's also this past database, which is, as time goes on, that probable future turns into the past. And it's everything that could have happened and the probability that it might have, plus our history thread, which is what we did, what we actually did. Okay, so we have this future probability database. We can change the probability of what's to happen next. Now, I don't mean that we can make it be whatever we want. We can just modify it. We can change it. So perhaps if it was 1,000,000 to 1, and we try really, really hard, we can get it down to 1,001. Huge change, but still not likely to happen, you see. So you can't just get what you want, but you can change things. And where there is uncertainty, you can make the changes. Where there's little uncertainty, there's not much room for change, because you can only change things within the natural uncertainty of the problem. Okay, so this explains a whole lot of things. It explains things like the placebo effect. Why does the placebo effect work? Well, it's because usually it's with medicine. That's because a doctor tells somebody that they've got this wonderful medicine and it's bound to make them well. Well, that's a very positive intent. They feel good about that. I got this great medicine, I'm going to get better. That positive intent actually helps them get better. Not just think that they're going to get better or just think they feel better when they really aren't any better, but actually makes them heal better. That's a placebo effect. Well, that's intent modifying future probability. And this happens to all of us. One of the outcomes of this is that this world we live in is really, in many ways, created by us. Because what we get is what our intentions are. Because we're nudging or helping things to come into the reality, the future to come into to our reality in the present based on our intents. So if you look around at the world and you see, gosh, what an awful place. There's wars, everybody's fighting, people are trying to take advantage, there's greed, everybody's ripping off everybody else, and you look at this, that's us. That is an accurate description of the average level of entropy or consciousness quality amongst human beings. So that's us. And when we get better, all that will get better. And if we don't get better, that won't get better. So to try to make it better here, what you should do is work on yourself. You can't change anybody but yourself. So we can go out and take that government office or take that dictator or take that monetary system or whatever that we think is the problem and change it. But if we, the people, don't change the quality of our consciousness, in a very short time it'll go back just to the way it was. It's going to be abusive again. It doesn't matter. Sure, you put somebody in there who's a wonderful person, but that wonderful person doesn't live forever. And normal people eventually come and whatever, and it's going to get just the way it was. So trying to fix it from the outside. Let's go fix the outside. Let's go fix the politicians. Let's go fix, our neighbors or people who aren't nice. Let's go fix them. It doesn't work. All that works is if we fix ourselves. It's the only person that we can fix. And if we do that, that's our maximum contribution to fixing it all. Now, it doesn't mean that you should sit back and not take part in things. Sure, go out and protest, carry your sign, make a lot of noise, because that's educational. And as long as that's educational to help other people see a bigger picture, well, then that'll help move us to change. So yes, get involved, but you have to realize that the point here is education. Not burning something down, not, executing the bad guys, not replacing the president or whatever. That's not the key. The key is to educate people so that they see the bigger picture. And as they grow up, our institutions, governments, economic systems, they will get kinder and gentler as we get kinder and gentler. And they will not get kinder and gentler if we don't get kinder and gentler. So it's up to us, you see. And like I say, your maximum contribution is to get yourself improved to a higher quality consciousness. So that's kind of the big picture with physics and where I started. And basically virtual reality is the key to this idea. It answers all the mail, and I mean by that it runs, it connects all the dots in science, in philosophy. The Buddha said that this is all illusion. Maya, it's just illusion. Well, this is a virtual reality. Buddha was pretty close to being right on that. We've probably heard the expression that, love is the answer. It's all about love and caring and other people. Well, that's true. That's what it is. We hear things like, we're all one. Well, yes, this is a larger consciousness system, and we are all connected, and we're all netted. So we can communicate to each other through this consciousness net, if you will. That's where the Jungian archetypes come from, our inner communication with everybody. So a culture, the people that all identify with that culture, they're all connected in a way with their consciousness. You see, so that's how you learn through your culture that this reality is just physical. Well, it's not true, but it's a cultural belief. So you just get it. You get it out of the air. Nobody explains it to you. It's just there. It's part of your consciousness.